What's up, world? How you doing? This is Nicholas Brown, aka King Nick Anthony, coming at you one more time. And today I'm gonna show you guys how to do an anecdotal prose poem. Alright? First, let me introduce you to the face of the creator of this style of writing. That's right. Brother man created his own way of writing. Let me give you a little backdrop on me. See, I've been writing stories since, fourth grade, something like that. And I've always wrote them whenever a teacher asked it for me to turn it in, or if I had to do like an extra credit assignment or something like that. And I've always been real good at it. For some reason, I just understand the flow of a story. And it just comes to me second nature. And I enjoy creating stories because you're using your imagination to create a whole new world. How people walk, how people talk, how they look, how they move, how they maneuver. You know, you're creating personalities, something that has to resonate with people when they read it or when they get a hold of it somehow. You see what I'm saying? So I've always been able to escape like reading comic books and just reading. You know, shoot, whenever I cut the TV on, I don't just cut it on just like that. The closed caption on the TV for people that are deaf. Ever since they started putting closed caption on when I was a shorty, I always put the closed caption on the TV. And it used to annoy the hell out of my brother and sister and my mom or whatever, but that's how I enjoy watching it, because I like reading what it is they saying. I'm not deaf or anything. I just like reading what they say. And sometimes I'll sit down, depending upon the television show, I'll sit down and look at it, and I'd write down words that I didn't know that they said or whatever, and then I'll just look through the big thick dictionary that I had, the big thick Oxford dictionary that I used to have. Oh, dropping my pen, hold up. Drop my bloody pen. Yeah, I used to read through that to find the words and stuff like that the characters would say, or I look it up on my phone or whatever. But nowadays I look up on the phone. I have Google right there on the phone. You know, boom, looking up words and stuff like that. Words, phrases, idioms that people say and stuff like that. Yeah, colloquialisms, slang terms, just anything that a character said, I'll just look it up. You know, that sound interesting or that I never heard before. And yeah, and I've been doing that for a long time. Shoot, when I got out of high school, I had to work to get my green card. 3 to 4 years later, I finally got into college. And even though I was out of school 3 to 4 years, I was still, when I took the CPT, the college entrance test for Miami-Dade College, everything was college level. The only thing that I was slipping up on, I had to take 2 remedial courses for, was math. That's it. Everything else was college level. English, everything else, straight up across the board. But then again, when I was in the 10th grade, because of me reading so much through the closed caption, I was on a college reading level by the time I hit 10th grade. You know? So, because I read everything I'd read things that were interesting to me, or I'd look up words just to look them up. And some words, while I'm looking up words, like I remember one time I was looking up what a culvert was, right? Looking up culvert, and there was a word inside the definition of culvert that I didn't recognize, so I ended up looking up that word, and then with that word, within that other word in the definition of culvert, I ended up finding another 2 words, and next thing you know, 3 hours pass by, and I'm looking up different words, and then I backtrack the words, and then went, from the last word I had to look up to understand all the other words that I looked up, backtrack all the way back to culvert. See what I'm saying? So yeah, I always expand my vocabulary. It's just in me, period, you know? Yeah, and while in college finishing up, I was going part-time, 2 classes here, 3 classes there, 1 class. Sometimes if I had the time, 4 classes or whatever to try to speed it up as quick as possible. Um, a bunch of other mishaps with my transcripts. I'm not going to point any fingers, but they know who they are. Broward College. Yeah. Um, I came up with my own writing style, taking up these college courses, because, like, to understand an anecdotal prose poem, you have to understand the origins of it. See, a prose poem, let me spell that for you. Hold up, let me adjust. See, a prose poem Prose, poem. See, a prose poem is pretty much a poem I consider it blogging for intellectuals. It's a free form of poetry where you can pretty much write whatever it is you want, however it is you feel. You see what I'm saying? You can add alliteration if you want. You can add hyperbole if you want. You can add similes and metaphors if you want. It's free flowing. You can do whatever you want with it. See, let me show you one of the anecdotal prose poems. The first, in my book, Dragonflies in the Swamp, the first chapter is an anecdotal prose poem, The Whip. It doesn't have anything to do with slavery. Don't worry about that. I ain't get all that deep yet. Ha ha ha. Anyway, see what you do, you set up the text in a block format. You see with most stories or whatever, let me flip. This is a story right here. You see how the sentences sort of, one is long, one is short, one is longer, shorter than the other. That's how story formats normally go. That's how it normally goes. But with an anecdotal prose poem, or what have you, with an anecdotal prose poem, let me go back to The Whip. It's a straight block set. See what I'm saying? Straight block set. It's like you're typing in a rectangle, if you will. See? There's no breaks at the beginning or at the end of the sentences. There's really no huge breaks unless the sentence is actually short or what have you toward the end. That's the only way that it breaks. But outside of that, it's a block set. So the first thing you do, you get out of right a line or center a line. You don't put it on right, center, or left. There's this one setting in Microsoft Word or whatever it is you set where it's just a bunch of straight lines that set it in this block set. That's the first thing you do for a prose poem, right? But you see, what I do, along with just letting it free flow, stuff like that, you see, I just put down what it is I got to say about cars. See, this first chapter is about car culture down here in the South. I'm from Miami. This is technically the South. We're in the Southeast, and we like old cars. You know what I mean? Like Trick Daddy, the rapper Trick Daddy said. Yeah.
What's up?
Nothing much.
You good?
Yeah.
Alright, let's pass in through.
Alright. Saying what's up to my peoples. Like the rapper Trick Daddy said. I'm from the city of the Caprices and Impalas, y'all. You know what I mean? And that's what we like riding down here. Old school Chevys in the mid to late 70s, 80s, box Chevys and stuff like that. But anyway, that's beside the point. Bottom line, this chapter is about car culture. And, I'm writing down, like, what guys do or whatever. Like, with this first, like, the beginning of it, I'm breaking down, like, what a seasonal baller is at the beginning. People who get their income tax, buy a bunch of cars and stuff like that. Next thing you know, it gets towed away by the time June comes around, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I'm really getting into car culture, what we do, how we go by it. And then that's the prose of it. I get poetic. if you will, with my words. But then you scroll down, I get to the story part. Boom. That's where the anecdotal prose is different. Because when I get to the story part, that's when I flip it around. It's not no block text, if you will. See what I'm saying? Alright, let me get away from this story. Alright, let me show you another one. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Let me show you the other one. Yeah, it's why money is a major issue. Yeah, I know I'm biting pit bull or whatever, but yeah. See, when I get to the story part of it, see, this is also an anecdotal prose. Why money is a major issue. It starts off, you see, block format. That's a prose, anecdotal prose. That's the prose portion. But then when I get to the story part of it, when I'm reminiscing and stuff like that, boom. You see, the letters break. See, it's knowing when to break from being poetic and setting the tone of a particular subject that you're talking about to break into story form. See, the stories in the anecdotal prose, you have to find a short story that match what it is you're saying. You can't have an anecdote or a short story. Like, say that you write your anecdotal prose poem. The theme of it is about animal cruelty. You can't talk about animal cruelty, how much you love animals and stuff like that in the prose part being poetic, and then you use your anecdote, and your anecdote is talking about, and then out of the blue your anecdote is talking about how you dislike liars and cheaters. You see what I'm saying? You have to make sure that your anecdote, your story of your life, it has to come from your life. Because everything that I put inside this book is real. It's from the heart. You see what I'm saying? It's from my real life. This is nonfiction. Everything that's in this book is nonfiction. The only thing I did change around, that I didn't add in, were people's real names and some of the locations. Alright, because I ain't trying to have goons, run up in my spot like, hey man, you around here dry snitching in your little book, bruh. You know what I mean? So I'm not trying to have that kind of pressure on me. I'm not trying to have goons run up on me saying that. Right? So, yeah, but bottom line, you have to make sure that the anecdote is from your real life. And it matches what it is you're saying in the prose. Because these short stories right here is breaking down it's breaking down moments in my life. I'm using moments in my life that explain how money is a major issue and how I tried to start businesses with guys and never really went anywhere. And the frustration of starting your own business. It's either you got to do it by yourself or trying to find the right people to work with. Because you can't do everything by yourself, man. The world is too big for one man to rule alone. I say that all the time. Anyway, yeah, but bottom line, you have the prose part where you're getting out your thoughts, you're being poetic if you choose to. And then you have the anecdotes to back up what it is you're saying. And you can add as many anecdotes as you want, long as it makes sense. All right? You just don't jump out the blue, throw an anecdote in there. You see? Right here, I'm bringing up like this one guy who I call Eldon. He used to rob dope boys and stuff like that, and I'll talk about how sometimes at the beginning of it, it's like I was saying, being solo, like right here, being a solo act has its perks. When I was like, sometimes I wish I had more resources and outlets available, like those in LA or New York or even Chicago. But I know if I make it in Miami without having to speak in any Spanish to get a job, then I can say, if you can make it in Miami, then Lord knows you can make it anywhere. Being a solo front has its perks. When I was a kid, my mother and uncles were childhood friends with a Jamaican Shatta. Eldon was Eldon and his crew of shotters robbed dope boys in Miami, Philadelphia. See, I got into story mode right there. See what I'm saying? You ease into it. That's the secret of it. You have to know when to break from the poetic part where you're expressing what it is you're saying, and then jumping into the anecdote to boost it in. You see what I'm saying? To boost the chapter up some more or whatever. Have the reader feel what it is you're saying. All right. So remember, with an anecdotal prose poem, you can be poetic as much as you want. You can be descriptive. You could treat. In fact, with my anecdotal prose poems, they're more like essays. I repeat, an anecdotal prose poem is, to me, is more like an essay. But what you put in between, it's all on you. You can add alliteration. You can add hyperbole. You can add metaphors and similes. You can do that. You can do that. But you have to make sure that you put in an anecdote that makes sense. See what I'm saying? So remember, the anecdotal prose poem, let me spell it for you. A-N-E-C, Anec, D-O-T-A-L, anecdotal prose poem. Because you're telling an anecdote within a prose poem. Alright? The anecdotal prose poem is like an essay you can use to free form poetry. You can use to free form or use as free form poetry. That's the first step in doing an anecdotal prose poem, is how to write it. You have to be able to write a damn good essay, first and foremost. And second, you have to understand what prose poetry is. And third, you have to be a pretty good storyteller, because you have to make sure that the anecdotes make sense. The short stories in between make sense with the prose that you're saying. Alright? So that's 3 things you have to be good at. You have to be good, or know how to, or knowledgeable. You have to be good or knowledgeable at writing essays, you have to be good at poetry, especially prose poems. But most definitely you have to understand poetry in order to lace it in to the prose. And last but not least, you have to be great at story telling. See that? So you have to be good or knowledgeable at writing essays, writing poetry, especially prose, because you have to understand poetry to make a prose poem flow smoothly. And you have to be great storyteller in order to make the anecdotes stand out and pop. You see what I'm saying? Hope this is visible enough for you, or what have you. Yeah, but bottom line, you have to be good at these things in order to make an anecdotal prose poem flow smoothly. I hope this helps out. I hope this helps you guys out on understanding what an anecdotal prose poem is. And like I said, I sort of stumbled across it because one of the assignments that they give, like a little quick 5-10 point assignment in the creative writing classes that I took to get my degree from FIU, the prose poem, like I said, it was just a quick throwaway assignment that they gave. And I always thought the prose poem was dope because you could treat it like an essay, you could treat it like a blog, you could be extra creative with it. It's all kinds of things you could do with a prose poem. You see, it's not just you have to follow a certain format. See, I like to be free form with mine. I like to free ball mine. You know what I mean? I don't like to be told like I have to be in this much space and I have to use this many syllables and this many lines. No, that's sort of restricting expressing how you feel. You know, I know, yeah, it's a challenge or whatever, but dude, you have to break barriers. In this world, you have to break barriers. You can't stay confined in one. So, yeah, I respect who created other forms of poetry, of course, because if they didn't do what they did, I wouldn't be on the level that I am at now as a writer, in terms of level of quality that I'm willing to sit down and put in. I still have to work on my skills as an editor. Yeah, I'm admitting that, but as a writer, I'm pretty damn good. And if it wasn't for them, wouldn't be where I'm at. I can admit that. But with time comes change, and the prose poem doesn't get enough respect. I mean, from what I understand, there's like one or two professors in the history of prose poetry, which isn't that, it ain't that old or whatever. It's still fairly new. But in the history of prose poetry, there's only like a handful of professors that are respected for the work they did as prose poems. And I'm like, nah, man, there's a lot you can do with this here. You can really open up. You can tell a story. You could treat it like I treat mine like an essay or a blog, and then I throw in the anecdotes and stuff like that in. You know what I mean? And then I get real creative with the language and the similes and stuff like that. You see? But bottom line, anecdotes, I mean, prose poems or whatever, it's just a quick assignment. And I'm like, dude, there's so much you can do with this. There's so much you can do with this. Alright, I'm thinking about doing a contest. I'll let you guys know about whoever can do an anecdotal prose poem. I'll figure something out. I just have to get the prizes up, alright? I don't really do a lot of filming or whatever, but I feel this had to be seen. Take care.